We've always had room in our hearts for film and TV, not just on Netflix, but tape and disc and theaters. Also, God forbid that they take it all away and leave us nothing to broadcast to loyal listeners. We'll binge watch every single movie, so you don't have to. What else are we here for? Coming to you every week. Listen to us while you're busy. Luckily, we forgot to grow up. Hey everybody, it's Craig.
Hey, it's Scott.
Hey, it's Andrew.
Welcome to episode number 104 of the Forgot to Grow Up podcast, also known in certain social circles as season 2, episode 52 of the Forgot to Grow Up podcast, or the season 2 finale of the Forgot to Grow Up podcast.
2 years in.
We made it to 2 years, and we might have had at one point in total 104 unique listeners.
Come on, son. Come on.
That might be a stretch. That's possible. It's very possible that there have been.
You know, how many podcasts make it to 2 years on a weekly release schedule? We haven't missed a single one.
That's
we have
true.
not. We have not missed a single release, or even like we've been late twice, I think, just by a single day. So no, I'm very proud of us for making it through 2 years. 104. Well, this will be 104.
Go, girls.
Our production value is absolute garbage, but at least we put stuff out.
And yet we're still slightly better than some professional podcasts I've heard.
It's amazing how you can be better than someone who just talks into a mic by themselves because people find it entertaining.
You mean you guys don't like hearing this?
Oh my God, don't even get me started. Thank God I only listen to freaking mostly professional. Like I just listen to network podcasts now. I can't be bothered to try to find anything else. Like if you are NPR or CBC, you are my new best friend.
Which is exactly why we're not being as successful as we'd like.
I guess exactly, because I'm too lazy to try to match them. They've got studios and real microphones.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And time
and money.
Sponsorships.
The sponsorship and.
Although I guess Freakonomics is technically a Stitcher podcast now. And who else do I listen to? Oh, it's Radiotopia. 99% Invisible is Radiotopia. But it's all still based on actual studios.
Yeah, they've got
just like we're studios. Based on talking about movies and television.
The saturated market.
The very saturated market.
That's why this was short-sighted. That's all.
Yeah, well, we had a thing that inspired us a little bit. For me, I needed a new project on the side, and that's what sparked this 2 years ago at least, was for me to be like, hey, Andrew, we should do a podcast. And that's and here we are.
And I was like, Scott, you dumb motherfucker, I'm in Colorado. This is costing me money. Don't text me.
Well, this is
not how it went at all.
This is not the Forgot to Grow Up post-mortem.
Not yet.
This is season 2. Well, I wasn't even going to tease that.
I think we should announce it at least. Okay. We haven't mentioned it at all.
Next week's episode number 105, will forever be known as the series finale for now.
At the hiatus, least. We'll call it.
The
indefinite hiatus.
We're going to be like my favorite band, the Weaker Thans, and be cryogenically frozen in time on an indefinite hiatus. And it'll be the Forgot to Grow Up movie, because you can't do season 3 episode 1. That just doesn't make any sense.
No, you have to do a double episode, which is basically a movie.
Yes, exactly.
So we're doing a movie.
So next week's
about
episode,
Valentine's Day.
You know what? Honestly, I would not be shocked if people actually listen to next week's episode and that's what they listen to. And
that's just the way the universe goes.
Surprise me either.
Because it's not going to be like anything else we've done.
No, definitely not.
It's going.
We might give you a little bit of what we watched this week, but it's going to tie into some other stuff.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about Hershey's chocolate
podcast.
We're going to talk about Andrew Scheer. We're going to talk about why the fuck do you have tobacco in your hair? Maybe try washing your hair. And it looks like you got Cheetos on your fingers, but that's fucking cigarettes, you nasty motherfucker. That's what we're going to talk about on episode 105.
Well, they'll definitely talk about that.
On this week's episode, we're going to talk about stuff Scott prepared.
Yes, I came up with some random movie and TV related questions just to kind of get a little dive into each of our kind of mindsets around movies, just to have a little fun, especially since it's been 2 years of us talking about our thoughts on movies every week, at least once a week.
I like to think we've grown.
I like to think so.
We didn't grow up, but I like to think we've grown.
We remembered to grow. We just didn't remember to grow up.
Exactly.
Which is kind of funny because we're all over 6 foot.
Yes.
So
And we all have
allegedly,
we all have jobs and like
y'all got jobs,
real life responsibilities,
and beards.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
We
true.
all
Some
have
of us started
beards.
without beards.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Some of us have glasses.
Oh, you gotta throw that back in my face now, eh? Just because
Some
I
of
got
us-
perfect
well,
vision.
Some of us have lived with their siblings over the course of this this adventure.
Some of us still do. Thanks,
One of
Craig.
us moved twice.
I've had 2 wisdom teeth removed.
Wow.
Still got 2 more to go.
Man, you guys make me feel like nothing is better in my life.
You-
Outside of Kendall, my life has not changed.
You had a relationship change. I mean,
That's true. That's
That's
so
a
true.
big-
No,
that's
it,
bigger
it
than I've
wasn't a
had.
change. It was an upgrade.
Oh.
significant. Same.
That's on the record
here.
now.
Same here.
Praise
that-
be to blue.
I'm the only one I think that's still in the same relationship status, which is single as fuck.
You hear that, ladies?
Yeah.
Go
They
go
don't.
get
they're,
that
they're not listening.
SPD.
They're not listening. It's
if-
90% males that listen.
If you want to see what he looks like, he's on YouTube.
Or just look at the cartoon
Which,
that is
speaking of,
located
that
on your
will-
screen.
that as well. But also, speaking of the
will
YouTube,
continue.
I will continue to be doing the YouTube on a
And-
pretty much weekly basis.
We may or may not end up in some hits on YouTube.
Yeah.
It'll just be nice to have a more relaxed recording schedule.
It's gonna be nice to not have to watch stuff, if I'm being honest.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah, that definitely
But
gets
the
a little
the other
challenging.
part of it too is that like I know that every week I got to set aside 3 hours to do podcast related stuff. We don't record for 3 hours.
Yeah,
little
but
peek,
also
little
we
that-
peek
sure as shit
behind
talk
the
for
camera.
3 hours.
little peek behind the curtain here. We don't actually
is no
record for 3
overlapping
hours. This is
audio.
a single take. There is no editing unless Scott says something dumb.
That happened one time.
Twice.
2
I
times.
think it happened twice on the same episode.
Same
once.
reason. Doesn't it?
Our
Doesn't.
generation. We're not going to even talk about it.
No one can tell. Just because words change as you get older.
Yes.
It's
yes.
fine. But it'll be
I never thought we'd lose that one.
it'll be nice to know. It'll be nice to not have as nice as it is to every week be talking to you guys. It'll be nice to not have the impending doom of like one night of this week I have to have it set aside so I can record the podcast.
Yeah,
And
make
then
sure there's nobody
at
in the house.
some- At some point over the course of the weekend, I need to remember to edit the podcast. It'll be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand.
It'll be a little nicer to do it sporadically. I think when we decide that we have time and desire and something to actually talk about.
Yeah, that's the other thing for me, I think. It was getting a little tough having a one every week, trying to either keep up with either trending stuff or come up with something
Which
kind of
we
unique.
can't. None of us has the schedule or the budget to watch everything that comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, but yeah,
Or
particularly
the
even
desire,
the schedule.
really.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah.
don't
Maybe
have
if
the
we had
desire either.
sponsors from businesses that weren't mine.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes, very much
The
so.
Ace Barbershop in Campbellford, Ontario is not exactly the best sponsor. Maybe see them for your beer league hockey, but don't.
I got us T-shirts and mugs. That's about it.
And mics.
You know
Well,
what?
two-
I,
three
I
mics.
sponsor curling.
Sam and Zach wear their
cadets.
T-shirts all the time.
Damn right.
we're
I
up
think
to than all
I think
of
I
us.
wear Kendall's more than she does.
I use my mug a lot.
I never got one of those.
I have a notebook that I write in.
Nice.
You know what? It's funny enough that we're on episode 104. I'm on my last page.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I know, right?
Did talk about manifest destiny.
Right? I mean, I'm going to have to write shit on the other side of one of these pages for 105, but that's not
No,
important.
no notes. Let's make a rule. No,
No.
notes.
No notes?
I assume we're gonna talk about what we watched.
It's going to be like
Let's
a
just-
6-hour episode.
Let's just make it a big fat. Fuck. What did I watch this week?
That's going to be me. It's going to be one thing, and it's going to be the last thing I watched, and it's going to be something Sam and I watched.
And it's gonna be episode 146 of fucking. I was gonna say Grease. I meant Glee.
No, we watched all of Glee. It doesn't matter because you can pick up that show anywhere in the middle, and you won't have.
And you won't know what's going on.
You'll have as much continuity from like season 3 to season 5 as you would from the 2 continuous episodes. So it doesn't matter.
Sounds about right.
It doesn't make any sense. But
it's about as much continuity as this episode has.
Yeah.
We've been really on topic. We said this wasn't going to be the post-mortem, but here we are.
It kind of turned into that a little bit, yeah.
Consider this a sneak preview for episode 105.
Definitely. There'll be a lot more of this in particular.
It's going to be a lot more fun. Maybe
yes.
We might get so addicted we'll just have to do like a monthly of that.
Yeah, and it's possible. The podcast will still live on. You'll still be able to go back and listen to our hundreds of episodes.
We'll be hosting it for free instead of paying for it.
Yes, we're going to shift that over to Anchor. So thank you, Anchor, ahead of time. I'll be shifting that over actually after we do this today. But yeah, they'll still live on. But should we get to some of the questions?
Hit us with some ideas here.
Okay, so I just had a couple questions just to kind of, for those who are actually listening to one of our last episodes, just get a little bit more of an idea where our movie views and TV views are at these days, if that makes sense. So the first one I wanted to kind of start off with, pretty basic, pretty broad question, but just to kind of give a sense. So like, what to you guys makes a great movie? So like, what is the thing?
Man.
What's the recipe for you guys in particular that makes a strong movie or a great movie?
Okay, now this is just a broad spectrum of like.
I want you to take this wherever you want to go with it, just because
I'm trying to think of the last movie that I watched where I was like, you know what, I really like this movie, and it was a couple weeks ago. I said I watched that one, Long Shot, the Seth Rogen movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where, like, he's a reporter, and then he ends up writing speeches for. I can't remember the actor that goes to be
Charlize Theron.
There you go, Charlize the
woman who gets more beautiful as she gets
Charlize the
old,
Ron.
younger.
I watched a lot of Between Two Ferns this week, which may or may not be leading into something I watched this week, but we'll not talk about that. And that was that when she was on, it was the Ron. It was kind of funny.
Charlize the Ron.
The Ron. Anyway, so like that was the most recent movie that I watched where I was like, I really like this movie. And what did I like about the movie?
Other than Charlize,
besides that, it kept me engaged. It did not feel that it was so ridiculous. The dialogue felt natural. I think that's pretty much it for things that make it a good movie. Where on the opposite end of the spectrum, movies that I absolutely despise are movies where I go, holy shit, it's not over yet.
Or why is this movie about certain people,
I go,
but it stars the people who actually went on the fucking train? Oh my god.
Well,
that's a callback. If ever there was a callback.
That was the worst movie I've ever seen, and I sat through it on a date. Let's not forget that garbage.
Needless to say, fuck that movie.
So yeah, no, things that take me out of the movie are if I have to spend too much time trying to figure out what's going on, but not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing if the movie is intentionally
like if it's
that
an Ocean's
way.
movie.
Yeah,
I mean,
where it's intentionally like you're supposed to put it all together at the end. Like Inception is a lot of like, holy shit, what the fuck, and then at the end you're like, oh yeah, they're still in a dream. Or are they? But
Psych.
but 1517 to Paris, on the other hand, was confusing because of how it jumped around. It was really badly cut. I'm gonna give it that awful credit. It was bad. It was badly edited, I think, is its fault. That, and it was starring the guys that were in it. That was very self-aggrandizing and stuff like that. But the other movie I was referring to, where I was like, oh my god, it's not over yet, was definitely a Transformer film.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's
Fight
just
me,
like
bitch.
There's nothing of substance.
Bitch.
I want substance.
No, I'm definitely with you there.
No, I get it. Those movies are so bad they're good. That's my thing.
I don't want to watch a movie that has nothing to it. I am all for mindless comedy, but that's an entirely different thing. If you're trying to make a movie that's supposed to have a thing, at least make it have a thing.
Oh yeah, at least give it the thing.
Like, as much
I
as
think Optimus Prime murdering people was the thing.
See, that did nothing for me. I don't even remember which one. It must have been the
Because
third.
that guy has a higher kill count than any Decepticon.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic.
That guy literally rips off a dude's head, punches a guy's heart out of his chest, kicks the guy whose head he ripped off out of a window.
We should mention that all these
Shoots
guys
another guy.
are robots, though.
They're guys.
Not people.
Well, I'm not saying that they're not people. I'm just saying that they are also robots. I'm not discriminating against robots.
In
I'm
disguise.
just clarifying that he did rip out a
Robots in
robot's
disguise.
heart.
I like that. That was good.
See, for me, I'm torn because like I love me some Batman versus Superman, but they only made that movie once.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say like what makes or breaks a great movie for me. I like to cry. It's my guilty pleasure. I like movies that make me not openly weep, but you get those 3 embarrassing tears that roll down your cheek, and you're like, "Fuck, what is wrong with me?"
No, I definitely.
But
know
deep
what
down
you mean.
inside, you're like, "I got you."
I get those too often with superhero movies. That there's probably something wrong with me. But go on.
I didn't.
And
I've never been in a position where a superhero movie has made me feel emotional, though. I think it's because I'm removing myself too much from it.
That's
Depends
fair.
on the emotion. I've been pretty fucking angry at some of them.
For me, I think it's sometimes it's usually that like rallying moment, and that sometimes takes me back to like, football days. You know, when you'd rally as a team.
That makes sense.
And so it can kind of bring out that feeling for me a little bit. This is me, trying to go Psych 101 on myself a little bit, but
That's fair.
that's kind of that's the feeling I kind of remember. Like the real life equivalency would definitely be that, and that's the kind of feeling I'll get with certain superhero scenes. When freaking Cap does a strap up on the freaking shield, I get a little like, yeah, go Cap, go, yeah. And yeah, that's how I feel on the inside. So I understand. I know, but I feel like yours is a little bit more on a real emotion level, Andrew, as opposed to
mine wasn't the superhero level.
No.
Mine was I need a B+ leads. I need an easy on the eyes lead actress who also carries herself extremely well as an actress because she's incredible. I need a guy who's a fucking smoke show. Okay. And I need them to overcome something, or like I need them to grow as people as well.
a journey.
And then I need to get hit in the face. I just need to be like, here's some sad shit. And you're like, why? Why does she have cancer? Why? And then I need him to be like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And then I need her to be like, fucking go. And he's like, bitch, I ain't going nowhere. And then they have a minor falling out, and then just life works out.
So the romantic tragedy is what that sounds like.
Yeah. I need to feel emotion. And then at the end, I need to be like, ooh, let's wipe these away. What's happening now? And then it lifts you up a little bit. It makes you feel good at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you cried. Maybe that's why you feel good.
Sometimes
But the movie itself. Like, examples. You want examples? Okay. Instant Family, for starters. Cry 412 times when I watch that.
Conversely,
another
in this
example,
household,
a walk
we don't
to
talk about
remember.
Instant Family because it triggers bad emotional responses about time wasted.
Yeah, but you guys are heartless cucks. So I also need a walk to remember.
You've been
Because-
reading far too much conservative literature if you're throwing out cuck. Get off the PPC forum, man. It's not worth your time. Maxime Bernier is not going to help you.
He's going to help Canada as a whole.
I'm sure. That's why it's called the People's Party of Canada.
At the time.
This is so going off the rails.
Yeah, that was a John
Mulaney
Mulaney reference.
Thank goodness. I brought it right back.
Brings it back. Yeah, that's what I need. I needed an emotional journey.
That's
that
fair.
I guess is like would have been the easiest way to say it before I called my friends cucks.
That's fair. You had to make your way
Heartless
to
cucks,
that.
I believe is what I said.
You had to go through your own emotional journey to get to
I did.
realize
I need
that
to
it's
get-
called
I
emotional
feel like
journey.
I connected well with this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my definition, I guess.
Okay, and so for me, I'm similar to Andrew. It's definitely got to make me feel something. Maybe not quite as emotional, but some kind of feel. Whether it's I was entertained, like to a level on like what Craig says, where I wasn't sitting there being like, is this over yet? Or we getting through this? And then you got characters who are memorable, or at least one character whose name I can actually remember. I don't think it's a great movie if I can't like have some kind of like remember the name of a character or some kind of calling thing, so I'm like actually it's does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just blathering on about that, but yeah. So and then just like a story again that just keeps me engaged, and that doesn't necessarily have to be like so like I obviously like when we get a new thing but I can be fine with just a hero's journey of some kind. Those are my favorite kind of movies, obviously, when it comes to like superheroes and stuff like that. But definitely on that same level, like you said, Andrew, things that like for me it's warm my heart as opposed to make me cry, if that makes sense. It's things that I like those ones. Like so Forrest Gump is one of my favorite. Like
I'm kind of on that same level. I just cry easily, okay?
No, I know what
I
you
was
mean,
accused of being emotional recently, and I got kind of emotional about it because to me, like I got kind of aggravated because to me when I hear, oh, you're emotional, like it makes me feel like I don't have my emotions in check.
Yes.
And like I like to think I keep things pretty close to the vest.
I don't
get super angry real quick. I keep things tight. I just cry when I watch fucking movies.
You're sensitive.
When
I'm emotional.
When my future niece says my name for the first time, makes me cry a little bit thinking about it once or twice because she said my name. But other than that, I'm not super emotional.
No. I would say more...
Fuck you, Scott. No, I'm kidding.
I would say you're more like just not... I don't want to say sensitive isn't the right word, but like along those lines.
I'm a big ball of mush.
Yeah.
Okay? I am a sap.
Yeah.
Soft.
I wasn't going that far.
Fat joke? That's a fat joke, Craig?
That is some negative connotation right there, but you called me a cuck, so...
That's fair. We are even. We are even, good sir.
That seems like a fair trade.
I called you a heartless cuck. Get it right.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
It's that digging yourself a whole thing. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going anymore more. I like movies. So my next one was just pretty much what makes a great TV show then for you guys. What's the thing that keeps you always going back to a TV show or wanting to check out a new TV show?
Suspense, but not for suspense's sake.
Okay, I like that.
I don't like when I can tell that something is ramping into a cliffhanger.
Yes, I like that. Fair enough.
I like Bad Blood, where you're like, wait, the episode's done?
Shit, what's next?
I just friggin' started it. What are you doing to me? That's what I like.
I like that you use one of the best shows I've ever watched.
Exactly, because that's the show. Like it hooks you. It's got you 100%.
I talked to a guy about it today, actually.
So
and I was like, yeah, that is one of, not just Canadian content-wise, that's one of the best shows I've ever watched.
That is one of the important criteria, but that doesn't generally apply to comedy.
Yeah.
But I don't watch comedy for the continuity. So I'm not watching it for the storyline. The exclusion would probably be Big Mouth because it tends to carry a little bit of one.
Yeah.
So what makes a good comedy show is new jokes and callbacks, which seems like an like an oxymoron, but they need to be making new references but also old ones.
No, that's fair. Kind of throwbacks.
See, I have a question when you say it keeps you coming back. Do you mean like what makes a show worth me go back and rewatch?
Or like,
do you mean like I'm watching
the series? Because you know how many times I've started something,
that's
looking at you, Designated Survivor, and your lack of urgency.
And you like fall off, so like versus a show that keeps you like you watch the entire series all the way through, no matter how long.
Well, that's why I was double checking, because like I have shows that fall into both of those categories.
Definitely,
like Mad Men is a show I will continue to always go back and rewatch because I fucking love that show.
And conversely, I couldn't finish it.
But I can't sit down and watch it start to finish. I need some space because I start to feel like I'm gonna hit a woman, and I don't want to do that.
I'm turning into an alcoholic.
Why do I have an open bottle of Canada Dry?
I feel like I need to throw myself out of a window, and I just I need a secretary. I need a secretary.
Yeah, I'm a barber. I don't need a
Who's gonna take my calls?
Oh. Dawn. But no, I love that show. But mostly for me, like the shows that keep me coming back are kind of like what Craig said. I need something that I'm guessing what's coming next, or I know what's coming and I need to prove myself right.
That's fair.
Yeah, but
Like,
they tease you in just the right way, like The Good Place, where they were like,
yeah,
where they give you the carrot, but you're like, wait, didn't I just start this episode? Like, I don't understand. Why are you stopping in the middle of a thought?
yeah. No, Kendall and I, was it yesterday? We started watching the new season of Kim's Convenience on Netflix, and the whole time we watched it, I think 8 or 9 episodes, and the whole time we watched it, we were like trying to figure out the episode, which is fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I think this is gonna happen. Oh my God, look at this. But then there's shows out there that like certain people I know who have shitty choices in movies and television like to watch, like Grimm. And then you sit there and you watch a whole episode because it's a slow day at work, and it fucking sucks.
I've never seen that one, even though that one seems like it'd be so
Wow,
up my alley.
I
That's what I was
100%.
laughing. Yeah.
I thought he was calling you out.
No, it was definitely wasn't me.
No.
No, definitely not me this time. I have not watched.
I'm calling
Grimm.
a coworker out.
Grimm is. It's
Wow.
funny because
Calling
Grimm.
a coworker out. You've got.
I technically have 2.
Well, we only know of one.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, Grimm's actually one of those ones that for me is too far past that line.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a show I was gonna be super into.
Yeah.
But then you watch it and you're like, what the fuck?
A little
Yeah.
too.
All I know is there are Grimms.
No, there's Grimm.
Yeah.
That's it. There's one left.
Look at that.
But then you find out there's 2.
Of course.
See, that's too much for me.
The cliche.
See, there's one. The episode we watched today. Okay, it shows like the Grimm's. One of the Grimm's best friends is a Vesson, which is spelled Wesson, but it's
Yep.
Vesson.
Because they have to be complicated.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
for some reason they think they're fucking like
It's
Norwegian
fantasy
or
television. They're
something.
too smart for you.
Yep. So this guy's getting married, and I don't even know what the fuck it was called. It's like Bad Blood or some shit. Blood Bod or whatever. He's like a dog dude, okay? But he's marrying a fox chick. But it turns out the fox chicks are all liars, according to every other Vesson
foxy?
lore. So his parents show up, and they turn into dog people who are like, oh my God, you're marrying this bitch? You can't do that. And then they have a massive ass
It's just a
fight.
funny thing for dog people to say.
Yep.
And then this bitch. Ha. Classic. But then they bounce over, and then they're like, you think you're halfway through the episode. And then Nick, the main character, shows up. And I'm not talking Nick the situation.
No.
I'm talking Nick from this fucking terrible show, Grimm.
Yeah.
He shows up. And then the dad's like, oh, it's a fucking Grimm. Gotta kill him. And then him and the mom attack him. And then it literally cuts to like a black screen that says O-S and then like an ampersand or a number sign, an exclamation mark to say, oh shit!
What?
That is how they ended the fucking episode.
What?
Yeah, this is a television show.
I was
That
gonna
is a
make a joke
syndication.
about casual racism in a show like that because it's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it's like a hierarchy thing.
Yeah. I was
But,
still like, oh, we gotta kill him. That's genocide. It's casual racism. Whatever. Yeah,
But
don't worry
no,
about
the
it.
episode ended with, oh shit!
That's just people trying to be viral.
It was fucking awful.
Luckily, BoJack Horseman makes fun of stuff like that.
And then Aiden's my coworker is super into
Who
this.
has no name? Probably
Yeah,
named Jonathan or something.
Yeah, his name's fucking Kent. God damn it, Kent. Kent last name. But this fucking guy, ugh, he's like super into the show. And whenever I point out a flaw, he's usually like, no, man. But then after that episode, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. He's like, yeah, what? He started questioning the show, and I was like, good.
It's
His
about
eyes
time.
are open.
And that's how people get off religion.
And that's it. But to answer your question, both yes and no.
I'm sorry, Scott.
Oh, that's great. I just love religion jokes.
God told him to do it.
I've kind of decided.
You're just
that
taking the bars off.
it's our last episode. I've been quiet for most of this season.
That's fair enough.
End on a bang.
Okay, so quickly to touch on what makes a great TV show for me, because it's me coming back, is definitely
Religion
characters.
jokes?
Religion jokes, always, definitely. Oddly enough, actually, religious elements do play a part in it. Like, my favorite,
Erica Durance.
that helps.
That's Lois Lane.
Yeah, no, it took me a
on
second, then I was like,
Smallville.
wait, yeah, no, I do know who that is.
For
yeah.
our listeners who don't know who that is, that's Lois Lane on Smallville.
Yes. But yeah, no, definitely for me, it's like a characters that I can kind of like connect with and who I want to see like their adventures no matter what. Those are the ones that I'm always coming back to, the ones I'm always rewatching. Like the religious element, funny enough, like Stargate SG-1, that's based off of the fact that aliens, pretended to be the Egyptian gods, and that's how a lot of the aliens like hierarchy works, is they each use different religious names, and then you learn a little bit about history from that. And anyways, but that was just a little funny that it is a little bit religious stuff in there too. But yeah, so like definitely characters, and then something that like some kind of concept that keeps me wanting to like find out where this is going. So like Stargate, it's them exploring, trying to find a way to defend themselves against advanced races, like advanced alien races. And then so like superhero shows, it's just what's going to happen with the superheroes. And so if that makes sense, I generally like just have some kind of concept or like, in a sense, like plot driver, like kind of built into a show for me to kind of always kind of stick with it or always want to come back to it. That's why it's hard for me to get into. That's why I actually don't watch as many comedies, as you said, Craig. Like they tend to not have continuity, and I like to have a little continuity with my stuff, which is ironic because when I was younger, I only watched like sitcoms and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
You've grown as a man.
Yeah, well, you can only watch
didn't
Friends so
grow
many
up.
times.
You
Exactly.
didn't grow up.
One times is too many times.
Yeah, definitely.
Friends is like The Office.
Well, I watched Friends like definitely in high school at least a dozen times, at very least a dozen times. That was just before before I had my own Netflix, because the first couple of years of Netflix was me using my high school girlfriend's family's Netflix.
The only reason he was with her. That and a roof.
No, we're not gonna. Just not gonna talk about that. Do we want to do some more questions, or do we want to move on to what we watched this week?
You know what? I'm curious. What are the questions? And then we'll decide.
We'll decide if we want to do another one.
All right, so I had like our desert island movies. So like, what would be if you were stuck on a desert island? Let's say for a month. Let's make it not too extreme. We'll just say 1 month, just so that's not like the one you have to have for the rest of your life.
Debbie Does Dallas.
But what's one you think you could keep you okay for at least a month? Like
Debbie Does Dallas or Space Nuts. It's gotta be those.
Okay.
No, it can't be those. That's porn. 'Cause
Yeah, I was like, those are porn, right?
I don't even know if I have water on this island, so I can't watch that and be dehydrated.
Man, I have.
Why am I stranded on a desert island, but I have electricity?
Yeah,
Gilligan's Island?
because we're all the professor from Gilligan's Island. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Let's say you have you have an iPhone and it's the one movie you remember to download.
Okay.
It's the one iTunes movie you don't remember to download. What's the one you remember to download? In case you didn't have Wi-Fi.
I have a hard time between Wet Hot American Summer and The Big Short.
Okay, I like those. I could see how you'd be kind of torn between those two, especially like you either got the laughs or you can go with.
They're two very different things.
Yes.
One would keep my mind nice and sharp. There's a lot to process.
Yeah.
And there's some scenes that are less than serious. But Wet Hot American Summer is so good.
Yeah, so I think this really comes into like, what do you think you can like rewatch for an entire month?
Handle for a month. I'm gonna have to go with The Big Short then. I think.
Big Short. Okay.
It has the most variety.
That's fair.
See, for me, I'm torn about what I require. Because
that's fair.
Like,
that's where I
don't want to watch something that I'm gonna want to watch the sequel to, or that's gonna fuel a fire of me wanting to watch similar genre movies.
Yeah, that's why I can't bring a Star Wars personally, because I'm like, well, then I want to watch the other ones, New Hope would be the only one that maybe, but that'd be a
Because it can
stretch.
physically stand on its own.
Yeah, whereas exactly, but it would also like after maybe a week, I'd be like, oh, I wish I had brought all 4, but that's not part of this question.
I would have to say Transformers: Dark of the Moon,
Okay.
or
I think Dark of
Or
the Moon is the only.
BBC's Blue Planet.
Dark of the Moon's the movie that I was like, holy shit, are you guys gonna end soon? So
It's a long fucking movie.
I disagree with you on that one, but it's your
See,
movie.
for me,
we
I
can't be
I,
trapped on the same island. Is basically.
I
what
love
I'm saying.
Transformers. That's my reason
Well, and
why.
I could see where he's going by. It's a longer one, so he wouldn't have to rewatch it as many times. He'd be able to
Yeah.
like, just sit with it. Yeah.
Well, that, and it's like it's mindless entertainment for me.
Yeah.
I can watch it, and I like to see the stupid bullshit action,
That's fair. Yeah.
right? So that's or BBC Blue Planet, because it's just like seeing the colors.
I
You're
think
like,
that would keep me up at night. Because it's like, what on this is right here, right now.
Yeah, that'd
well,
be part of
that's
it. for
why
me,
it's that's why it's the Blue Planet.
Oh, good
Oh,
call.
it's the water. Okay, right.
Only
fair.
the ocean.
That's fair. That's
Just
fair.
don't go near the
Don't
beach.
go in
it's
the
fine.
water. Yeah. Don't drink the water.
We shouldn't anyway. It's salt water, I assume. No one's getting trapped on a desert island in the middle of a freshwater lake. Right?
don't know
Like, we
what's-
can all swim far enough.
Well,
That's true. I can float. So
how deep is this? Are we talking? Because I get scared with too deep of lakes.
well, quit being a bitch.
Honestly,
I can't swim.
I have a problem. I have a problem with open water too. But
Yeah.
if the difference was you get trapped here for several days and maybe you don't survive, or you swim the 2.5 kilometers that it's required,
Well, see,
then
2.5
I'm gonna try.
If it's visible length, that's more doable for me. It's more when you get past that, like, I'm not quite seeing where the beach is. You know what I mean? Or the other side, then it's a little more like, I don't know about that. That's where my line is.
But that's what I mean, is we're not going to end up trapped on a desert island in the middle of a
No.
freshwater lake.
I don't imagine we're ever getting trapped on a desert island. This is just
Probably
this
not.
is just a random question I just came up with. Just
So what's your pick then?
for me, I think it's tough for me because I'm always a slight like recency biased in my like choices for anything. That being said, though, I think it might be Thor Ragnarok just because I can rewatch that movie so much. There was a point where
fair.
I put it on once a week when I was just doing like dishes and shit because it's got the combination of funny and the action that I like. And
I feel that way about the internship. I could probably watch that 142
Oh, I
times in a row.
100% could not. That's a once every 5 years movie for me.
Oh god, no, that's a once daily. For me.
Yeah.
I love the internship, but I also like that Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson dynamic.
that's true.
It's all
That's
right.
fair.
I prefer the Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson dynamic.
What are you, a fucking idiot?
Okay, so do we want to try any of these other questions? Do I want to actually list the questions this time? Because we kind
Yeah,
of just
let's
waited
list
to
the
that
questions.
one.
That one was just too good.
That one
That's
was a
all.
good one. Okay, so the next ones I have, it was okay. So like, what kind of makes a character? Meaning, this was kind of related to the Joker, being like, so what actually makes an adaptation of a character, and what's just them slapping a name on is kind of the question I was kind of going for, just to spark the discussion on that.
Well,
kind
that
of
seems
relate-
like an easy argument.
Well, that one, yes and no, because I was thinking, like, we got Sherlock Holmes. How far can you stretch a Sherlock Holmes character before it's not? Is kind of the way I was thinking of
haven't-
it.
they
That
haven't-
like Joker and
They have not.
Okay,
They have not found the boundary yet for Sherlock. I know we were going to list it. But
yeah. So we're gonna go into it. Okay.
So
no, I don't
they-
mind. I was
see, for Sherlock Holmes, for me, it's not necessarily the character.
well, no, for any character really. Like
It's-
this is where my struggle is like I have a little bit of a problem with this Joker movie because the director himself has come out and said that he pretty much made a movie, decided to slap Joker on because it fit, and that was the only way to get this type of movie made nowadays.
That's fair.
And for me, that I'm like that to
I
me
don't
doesn't
see-
feel like a Joker adaptation as much as product placement in a sense. Like they product placed Batman
see-
over it,
I would see it more as like an exploration,
which
of
is
the
a
character
point that I've
as opposed to
yeah.
an adaptation. Right?
And-
Like no one's trying to argue that this is what happened.
Oh, and that's fair. And
Right?
this is just kind of the discussion I wanted to kind
It's-
of bring up, just to kind of get
because-
your guys' views on it. And
The thing with the origin story is unless you're like really well defined as a superhero, no one knows.
yeah,
Most people know where Batman came from.
They got Batman and Superman are generally
Less
the
people
ones,
know
yeah.
where Superman came from, but still a lot of people know.
Yeah.
But no one's really like Joker's just a guy that just kind of is there.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different directions you can go with it. So characters like that where you can easily explore what they would be, like the other example you gave of Sherlock Holmes, where it's where he can be the kind of strange and slightly comedic but witty and stuff with the Robert Downey Jr. versions of the film, versus the television show with Benedict Cumberbatch, where
in
he's
the
very
modern era.
serious and very, and everything's modern era and
so like
and then,
I guess to me is what parts of, like, let's use the Sherlock examples you have, what made those both true Sherlock adaptations and not just they slapped the name on, and is there a difference necessarily?
they kept the general structure, which is why you could kind of argue, like, they kept the whole idea of like it's a partnership, but the Sherlock is the smart one.
So there are elements is usually what I would go for, right? There's certain
but then
elements
you could argue then that the Joker adaptation, the Joaquin Phoenix one, is similar because it's a deranged man that obviously had to start from somewhere.
And this is where my struggle is with this
part
question.
where he is where it's all vigilante justice and trying to right what he sees as wrong and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that the thing is, so I guess the struggle for me is, like, I agree there's certain elements that make a character, and after that it's like if you start changing the core details. And so it's just like, I guess, where do we draw those lines? So like we got Sherlock, let's say, we'll go back to the Sherlock example just because I haven't seen Joker yet, so I can't speak too much about that. But like, so like Sherlock examples of, like, we've got the new, let's say the modern TV one. And how it, like, what part of that, besides, like, because for me, what it comes down to, sometimes I feel like they just threw a name on something, and it's like, that doesn't mean it's an adaptation or exploration of a character to me. But it's also like, I can't really justify it more than that because there are these elements that do overlap. So like Sherlock, I'm not arguing that Sherlock isn't an adaptation. It's more like, what is it besides, he's a detective, obviously. If he wasn't a detective, would that be a Sherlock one? To me, no. But it's also like, where is the line, I guess, is like where you say, right?
For me,
or for you guys, yeah.
For me, it depends on what the source material is.
Okay.
If it's something visual, let's say they're making a live action adaptation of an animated movie, or they're making a live action adaptation of a comic book or a video game, something where I've visually seen it before or seen where it's come from. I need shot for shot. I need it to be, this is what he looked like. There we go. It's perfect. But if it's coming out of a book, I'm going to give it a little bit more free reign because I haven't visually seen it. As long as what they put on the screen comes close to the description in the book, I accept it.
Okay, so this one's interesting
to a degree
because yours is
very
very aesthetic.
Back to the Sherlock Holmes thing. You outside of what they did with John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell for Sherlock Holmes, that's fucking travesty.
That doesn't qualify.
Well, see, and this is where this is the part I was kind of interested in bringing up this topic.
With Sherlock, for me, outside of that, like I said, I'm not really super picky about the route that they go with the characters themselves. I just need I need the stories to take place in old-timey London.
Okay, so
that's
to you,
that's my
the new one
version of
doesn't
Sherlock.
count, right?
I
the
would
TV
disagree
show.
with that because
setting to me doesn't count either.
Let's continue. Scott and I had a setting discussion last week.
Yes.
But
setting is important to me.
Let's take and see. When we discussed space movies last week, and we decided that if the only thing that ties your movie to space is the fact that it's set in space, and it could be moved somewhere else, then it's not a space movie. But that's not what we're here to discuss.
Yeah. Like Interstellar is a space movie.
Well, yeah, because that's about traveling through space and stuff.
Through space.
But we were saying like Star Wars is a space fantasy, but it's more of a fantasy than a space movie, in my opinion.
That's true. Yeah.
But okay, so let's keep the Sherlock analogy going because we've latched onto it.
Yeah.
I think what would, or you can use it generically, I guess, but what would define a good character adaptation, because we're talking about like different mutations or different permutations of the same
exactly.
general
But
concept,
where,
right?
like, what part do you
Where
get
do you
to
draw
where
the
it's
line?
and where is
So,
it not the same character? Yeah.
What I think does it is if I ask you to boil down what is the idea of Sherlock Holmes, and the idea of Sherlock Holmes is he's a detective, really smart, has a partner named Watson.
Possibly on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm. But that's it. You don't what describes Sherlock Holmes isn't where he is, isn't how he dresses, isn't how he talks, even though they've managed to somehow decide to keep a lot of that.
Yes.
What defines Sherlock Holmes is that he's intelligent, mostly serious, has a partner named Watson, and is a detective.
And I would
So
maybe
Right,
add struggles
right
with
on
drug
the
addiction.
cusp of manic.
And that is where you define Sherlock, and that's how Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch can both qualify, but that removes the god awful shall not be named.
Well, that's what
adaptation of
I
it.
was saying from books. Like if it's coming from literature that doesn't have a visual
But I
attached
think
to it,
even then, with the
you get a
visual
little bit
attached,
more leeway.
because that's the whole point of an adaptation is that it's something different.
No, and I agree that that's definitely
Wait,
like
are we not saying more or less the same thing?
Well, see, but you're saying that if you're gonna make an let's go Lion King now. So if you're making an adaptation of the Lion King, and you use the same concept, so what you can take the character idea and adjust it to the movie. What is the boiled down concept of the Lion King? You've got your characters. You have the general story elements. Mufasa dies. Simba leaves. Simba meets friends. Simba grows up. Simba comes back, displaces Scar. That's all you need.
Inadvertently kills his uncle.
well,
Yeah,
and
which and it's basically all just a Hamlet adaptation.
that's what I was gonna say.
anyway.
Yeah, so that's
you
why
could
it's an
take-
interesting thing.
You could take because the core concept of the Lion King is Hamlet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to look the same. It could be house cats for all I damn well care.
Again,
It's
with Cats
still
coming
the
out is a
same-
similar kind of concept too, with it being a
It's-
meta kind of comment. It was supposed to be a meta commentary.
Yes.
It's-
Well,
it's the
that's what I'm saying. Like I have two different definitions. Like
Okay.
I said,
That's fair,
It's if I've seen it before, I need it to be shut. Like I need it to just be an upgraded version.
So then,
like my example, video game wise, like they came out with a Ratchet and Clank movie many moons ago,
yeah,
and they followed that through to the T, going from video game to movie. However, you look at the upcoming Sonic movie, and what the fuck?
Well, they are going back and changing that, but I
Yeah.
see what I do
But
understand
that-
what
Not
you mean
even-
by
no,
that.
not-
I'd say that's slightly different though.
Yeah, I would disagree. I'm not saying
I think we all agree on. I think we're all saying different versions of the exact same
well,
thing.
and that's what I thought would
Probably.
be interesting about this. Yeah.
My question to Andrew, I guess, kind of is to get a better understanding for it is that issues aside, you have Ghostbusters and then the female adaptation of Ghostbusters. Would you argue that that is a acceptable adaptation under our guidelines that we've set out, or
Well,
is that
see,
one not? Because I would, as much as I despise
I
the
never even
concept-
thought like live action to live action.
See, but that's
I didn't even
that
think
is an
of that.
adaptation.
That's true. I was thinking like exclusively like
Where you
Well,
taking
and
one
we-
source
well, we
material
did-
and converting it to
We
another.
did take it a little further
Yeah.
because I started with just character, and then we kind of did spread
Yeah.
it a little
We've-
further.
but-
'Cause once you get into story, you do get a little bit more.
But even
Yeah.
then, story to story, character to character, you've got kind of the same idea,
that's fair.
I guess. Because every story is kind of its own character. It doesn't matter.
no,
We're
I
saying
know what
this-
you mean. Stories
See,
make the
that-
character
that one-
too. Yeah.
That one, I'm not sure I can give you an honest answer because I fucking hated that movie.
See, that's.
I don't think
what
I
mean
don't
is
think I could give you an unbiased answer about it because I hated
don't
the
like
movie
I
itself.
don't like the concept. I don't like the fact that they felt like they needed to do it as much as whatever you want to redo movies and people are going to see them. Then fine. I'm just not going to watch it. So I don't like the concept that they did it.
The
but I
motivation
think that
behind it, yeah.
I think that removing it and looking at it from a purely objective
And I don't think I can do
stance-
that
See,
because
I feel
hated
like
the movie that much.
I feel like I can. So looking at it from a purely objective stance, based on the criteria that we've set out for what makes a good adaptation, that movie fits under that. As bad as it was, as ridiculous and as much of a satire of itself as it may have been, it still fits that because it follows the core
It's ghost
concept,
hunters,
right? Hunting ghosts, outcasts,
yeah.
4 guys,
Yeah, scientific
or
outcasts, yeah.
4 people, science element, hunting ghosts. Like that's all I wanted.
And the aesthetic was similar too.
That's
well, to an extent, like
Ernie
meaning
Hudson is
in
way
the
cuter,
costumes were similar,
but-
and they
Yeah.
at some point brought back, I think, the same car. Maybe I can't remember. I only saw the new one once.
They brought back a few of the actors that were in it.
Yeah,
In the
and different
building.
roles. Yeah.
So, shall we move on to what we watch this week? Because if Scott
guess
keeps
so.
listing stuff off, we're just gonna keep going.
Yeah, my
That's
next
it.
ones were pretty were definitely even broader. Like best movie ever.
Can't do it.
Yeah, no.
If you don't
That's
say
why I was
Passion of the
avoiding that one
Christ,
altogether.
We'll still be here next week if you do that.
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah, because my mind will melt because I'll be like,
I wasn't actually sure how long we'd get out of some of these questions, and I'm pleasantly surprised. to be
Surprised
honest,
at
yeah.
how long we talked about the character one. To be honest with you, I
Yeah.
thought that was gonna be a quick jump.
Well, see, that's kind of why I wanted to talk. Like, that's why I thought it was an interesting question. I've been kind of brewing this over. I almost made a YouTube video about just with my own thoughts, but then I was like, I want to get a little more outside perspective. Sometimes I think I'm a little too Andrew, meaning like a little bit I'm a little biased when it comes to this Joker adaptation. So I feel like I may be treating it differently because I have my own like Batman bias.
your own version. Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it'd be interesting to get your guys' perspective on where we thought the line would be. But
Yeah.
anyways,
That's fair.
Understandable.
yes.
Who
What-
wants to go first?
Well, I have a long list.
We'll start with
Mine
you
is-
then, because mine's shorter, so I can like ramble through it pretty
Also
quickly.
short. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll start with one thing. Scott, it's kind of funny because you mentioned the desert island movie.
Yes.
Kendall and I watched a couple episodes of The Office, and one of the episodes they did the same thing. They did the desert island.
It's very possible that
Movie
I saw a
thing.
meme that inspired this.
So it was like Manifest Destiny there. I watched Kid Gorgeous
Ooh.
again.
Nice. Nice.
Still stands up,
Good one.
Obviously.
and it is still stand up.
Stand up. Hasn't changed
Ah.
really.
Speaking of stand up, I watched Nikki Glazer's new special, Bangin'.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I haven't got to that
and
yet. Should I?
Don't.
I feel like I already could have told you that I
Yeah.
haven't even seen
I
it.
wasn't sure she was on Joe Rogan, I think, and so that makes me a little more
I-
like, okay, maybe I'll
She's
give her a
She's
chance.
she's very funny,
Yeah.
but she is exclusively sex content.
Oh. Okay.
That is, it's
tired
an
of that
hour.
within a
It's
minute
an
and a half.
hour. Yeah, it's an hour of talking about sex.
Yeah, that gets old
Which
for me. I know what you
I'm
mean.
not.
I felt
I'm
Christina
not
P was the same
17
way.
anymore. Yeah.
And a little too.
Well, this,
well, she's
no.
more
This
crude,
one,
too.
like, this takes it to a whole new level. Like Christina P's Mother Inferior is a hilarious special, but then you go and watch her on like that other
Degenerates.
Netflix special she has,
The Degenerates. Yeah, but that whole
And
thing was
it's-
set up to
it's-
be.
Yeah, that one was
to
meant to
be
be a little more
vulgar.
crude like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but this Nikki Glazer Bangin', it's funny. Don't get me wrong. There are parts where I laugh, but it's just all sex. Like she makes a few funny jokes where she talks like at one point she's talking about blowjobs, and she's like, yeah, like sex makes sense because like you're trying to have a baby, but like, what do blowjobs give you? And then I realized, oh, a career. And you're like, oh, that's funny. But then it
It's a
doesn't.
Me Too joke.
Yeah.
But then it just doesn't stop that on that track. It's just like, oh yeah, I do anal sometimes. Oh, I'll suck a dick. Oh, I used to be horny all the time. Oh, I had my first orgasm after this. And you're like, oh, you've been talking for 46 minutes. Are you going to talk about your family or anything?
Okay.
Nope.
I guess that but what works for. Yeah.
Some people are into it, I guess.
That's what I was gonna
just-
say. Some people are
it's
into
not
that
for
like
me.
just one thing the whole time. That's kind of why I didn't like. I've kind of fallen off like Russell Peters because it's all only ever
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you said that one thing the whole time, the first name
Yeah,
I thought of was
Russell
Russell
Peters because his whole thing is like talking about racial
Indian trips?
stereotypes and stuff like that, and like that's funny. But to me, eventually, I'm just like, okay, I know, I get we're just gonna go through every. I've just gotten over his thing, so I can understand like that same thing, like 40 minutes.
I used to feel the same way about Sugar Sammy. if we're talking about Canadian comedians.
Oh my god.
But
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
But I saw a bit he did recently. I think it was on Facebook. I saw someone filmed him doing like a stand-up night somewhere in the big old Toronto.
Ooh.
T dot.
No one calls it that anymore.
The 6.
It's
Not
this.
since-
Is that
Yeah.
what it's called
I was
now?
gonna say not since Drake happened.
Yeah,
because
I was
of
gonna
T
say
dot.
you
4-1
messed
then the
that all up.
416.
That shows our age, though.
Yeah. But anyway, so he's doing a bit, and he's talking about the Canadian Justin Trudeau brownface scandal. And he's like, honestly, I wasn't that pissed that he did it. It was the shade that he went to. And then he goes on about that for a bit. You know, he went to like an Indian guy who just sat out in the sun and sunburned for a week. And he's like, but then like, I don't know why everyone's so up in arms about it. Like, Andrew Scheer's been dressing like a lesbian for years. And I was like, okay, he's doing jokes that aren't exclusively Indian content. This is nice. This is a nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess comedians can grow, but Nikki Glaser exclusively talks about sexual stuff in this special, so...
And I guess we should have assumed that with the thing called banging, but
Yeah, that would be a no from me.
I guess I was thinking more like it's some banging comedy, not comedy about banging.
Banging. No, that's it. So, next up on my list, Kendall and I watched about 15 minutes of a movie called How Do You Know?
That sounds terrible.
Which,
I don't want to know.
It's got Reese Witherspoon, Paul Rudd, Owen
Yeah.
Wilson,
Oh, no. Why would you
Jack
do this to me?
Nicholson, Catherine Hahn.
This one's a few years old, right?
Yeah, it's from 2010.
Yeah, okay. I vaguely remember when this came out. I did not. I
Kendall
definitely
and I
didn't
got
watch
like
it.
15 minutes in, and we're like, this is fucking awful. This is shit. So we stopped watching it.
Fair enough.
And then we went and I think we started watching Grey's instead, which brings me to the next thing on my list, which is I'm about halfway through the new season Netflix just added of Grey's Anatomy.
I thought
I feel
we
like I've
decided
actually
you
already
quit on
watched
that.
that.
What'd you say, Scott?
Oh, I thought you had already quit. I thought you decided after you finished the last season that you were done with it.
Well, it was there.
That's fair. That's fair. I think it's
Netflix
actually
has done
wrapping
a
up shortly. Maybe.
Yeah, I hope so. Netflix has done this thing over the last month or so where they're like, oh, other than Brooklyn Nine-Nine, every show he watches, boom!
Yeah. Well, it's because all the
It
new
was-
seasons are coming out in another month.
It was stupid. Where it was like Family Guy and Archer,
Which I finished.
and Disenchantment, and
Good.
The
Which
Ranch,
I finished. Yep.
I still
The
haven't. I
Ranch.
forgot about
All
the
of it
Netflix.
was in
I
the
still
course of a
haven't gotten
month.
to
The
it
Good Place,
yet.
and Big Mouth just came out today, and it was like,
Oh, that
what are
was
you
today.
doing? I don't have time.
Yeah. No, I don't understand who's got the time to like watch all of this stuff. Like,
Old Craig
Well,
had the time.
that's fair.
Yeah. Well, current Andrew's about halfway done Grey's, like I mentioned. Kim's Convenience got added the other day, and current Andrew's about halfway done that too.
Yeah.
But I had to put a pause on that because Big Mouth came out today, and I have one episode left.
Oh, damn.
I'm
So
so
close.
disappointed.
My goal, you know what? I feel as bad about this as I feel about when they took away New Girl off of the flicks.
Ugh.
A day fucking early.
Ugh.
That's like
How is
I was so
the new
close.
season? We haven't watched any of it.
It's different.
Oh.
Okay.
Like it's just as fucked up,
Awesome.
but it takes a lot different route.
Cool.
A lot more songs. Actually, I think every episode has had a song so far, or at least every other episode. Spoilers. Andrew tries to fuck his cousin at one point, so that's something you get to look forward to.
Wonderful. That's the last spoiler you're going to give me, by the way.
That is
I don't
the last.
want anything else.
There's some good songs. So what I say, I got Kim's Convenience, which that might be one of the best comedies I've ever seen, and it's not just because it takes place in the good old T dot, because I'm gonna bring that shit back. It's Canadian content, which gets bonus points to me, obviously. However,
Because of
it's
Train 48.
because of Train 48, but it's such a clean show, but it's also like it's legitimate humor. Like it's not like over the top, like, oh, you asked for a loony, so I brought your Uncle Tom, eh? Like it's not like bullshit comedy. It's like legitimately funny.
It's not like rip off Corner Gas.
Yeah.
'Cause I would never say anything bad about corner gas.
It took me about 5 seconds
would end
too
up in a
long to
ditch.
get that joke, to be honest.
The loony one?
Yeah, I was.
Man, come on.
Just for like a second, it didn't click, and then it did. I'm like, oh god, why did
That's
that
a-
take so long?
That's a
I thought that was a super good, corny
I loved it.
Canadian stereotype.
That
It
was
was
a very
a great
Canadian
joke.
joke.
I was just it didn't click that loony was
I was-
not just a coin. That's what it came down to. That's how
Oh.
Canadian my mind was just then. I was
Oh.
just thinking, what do you mean, guys? What does
Yeah,
his uncle have to do? Oh, right.
Oh, because he's
yeah,
a loon.
yeah.
There we
Just took
go.
me too
I
long.
was trying to channel my inner wheels up Ontario. How are you doing, legs? What else did I watch? So Craig mentioned The Good Place. I finished that.
Oh snap! How do you feel that it's ending after next season? So season 4 is last
I'm
season.
I'm okay with it. I think it's 2 seasons past what it needs to be at.
Okay.
But at the same time, I
thought
did
it was
enjoy
a
this
one
season.
and done.
That's
That
what I was
should
gonna
have
say.
been
I
enjoyed
remember
this
when you
season.
both were very
should've
adamant,
had
like,
the
why is
British
the
treatment.
second season coming?
Yeah.
It should have had the British treatment. Do
Yeah.
one series, 22 episodes. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're gonna wrap it up, but I'm behind. I gotta watch season 3 still. So
Yeah, I haven't
The
watched
fact
it
that it's getting its 4th season yet Toast of London got shit canned is blasphemous.
yet. Don't even get me started. It's Clem Fandango. Can you hear me?
I still haven't watched that.
It's still so good. It's so fucking good.
What we need you to do is
I can't fucking hear you. So speaking of Stephen Toast, his voice is in Disenchantment,
yes, it is.
which I finished that season.
So did my brother.
Did you? What did you? Did you watch the first one when it came out? I can't remember. I didn't think you wanted to.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
I finished it. I wasn't super into it,
Okay. Yeah.
but I watched it
It's
because I like Eric Andre, so I was like, you know what, I can deal with him.
It's
being
having
a demon that
on-
calls himself a cat.
That's
Pretty
exactly how my
much.
brother described it as
Yeah.
well.
It's like
Yeah.
He plays
it's
a
like
video
you
game
It's-
when he does it.
you put it on and you
Yeah,
just
it's
kinda
good
have
background
on.
stuff.
Yeah,
It looks. I know it's Matt Groening or
Yeah.
Groening or whatever the fuck's his name is.
Futurama guy.
So it's gonna look like The Simpsons, but like
It's not as
so
good as,
so many of the characters just look like Simpsons characters.
it's not as good as The Simpsons early stuff or Futurama's entire run.
Yeah, Futurama was spectacular.
Exactly. That's where he peaked, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. But yeah, so I finished that and it was pretty good. I bought Spider-Man: Far From Home, watched it, and that movie, just the whole thing looks fake. Like everything that happens just looks like they took a picture and they're like, let's just CGI these guys
This
talking
is super
in front of
heavy
it.
CGI. Well, this is the
Yeah.
problem with them doing like costume edits now. It's like
Yeah.
they give them like a costume, but then they do CGI edits over it. So you're like everything always looks
Yeah.
fake. Like like even
Well-
the real things are looking fake because they put a little like layer over it, and it's like it's still.
I don't expect him as Spider-Man to like fly through the air and jump, but you see you see the video on Instagram that was floating around after the end of Endgame. Where if you haven't seen Endgame, fucking piss off. Just watch it because I'm not having anyone call spoilers on this. Like when Spider-Man shows up before Tony dies and they hug it out on the battlefield. There's like the video of them filming that scene where he just like jumps up in the air and lands and then goes.
Yeah.
And it looks fake. And then I watch this
When
movie
you
and like everything that happens, I'm just like, this looks so
It's
fake.
kind of bad to watch those behind the scenes one and see
Yeah.
like those
You don't want
jumps
any,
Like-
you don't want to see
like
anything
how
with a green
fake
screen.
because
it
then
is.
you know
Yeah.
where like the edit
Well, that's
is
all-
and like you
that's
start
what
to be
they
able to
do.
notice it. Yeah.
Like there was right after this one came out, they had a video that was floating around, and it was like the Nick Fury scene where he like spins around with like the dart gun
Yeah.
in his office, and he's sitting in a chair in front of a green screen with a fake gun that doesn't even look like a gun that's meant to be pimped out through CGI.
Yeah.
You're telling me your props department couldn't come up with anything?
Yeah. That's
They couldn't duct tape a Pringles can to a fucking handgun and say, "There you go."
yeah.
So it's thoroughly disappointing to see that's the point that we're at in cinema. Is just like, whatever. We're paying them to do digital stuff anyway. Just do
Yeah,
it.
I agree. It's getting too far at certain points, and they are starting like certain
Like-
filmmakers are trying to like draw it back a little bit, but We haven't quite.
Like I know
got
they
right
did that with the
balance,
Joker, which I'll give them credit where it's due. They did do like their own stunts and stuff, and Michael Bay just makes shit go boom.
Yeah.
Credit where it's due. However, I don't want to just see that.
Yes.
Just show me some character stuff. Unless it's Godzilla, in which case take the human aspect out of it right out of the fucking movie. Just give me big ass kaiju monsters fighting. That's all I want.
I know. I do too.
I also want to just watch The Internship all the time, which is another thing I watched.
That explains
At the
why you
shop.
mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, because I love that movie. It's so good. It's got Rose Byrne in
It
it.
just felt like a random pull. That's all. Like that's why I was like,
Oh,
okay, it was a
no,
little
that's
more
fair.
in your. It was on top of your
'cause
mind.
I watched it recently.
Yeah.
I love that movie. And the last thing I watched this week was Oh, Hello
No.
on Broadway.
Not in real life, not in the play.
Not ever. Will you put your fingernail between my fingernail and my finger? That is a safe space.
Robbie! It's George St. Giggling, I'm on the floor.
Remy, can we put a G here so I know this is for George and not Gil? Gil Faison, charmed, I'm sure. It's just spectacular.
Fucking wait.
See, whenever John Mulaney swears, it's so unexpected. It's kind of like when you swear, because you don't look like you swear, and then sometimes you will, and you're like, oh, he said fuck, yes. I get excited for it. And when John Mulaney says fucking, it just, because that's what he does, like fucking.
Puts a lot of emphasis on the F.
Yeah, on the K. It's
Yes.
the K.
Yeah, that too.
But that's the end of my list, guys.
Cool.
Do you want to go next, Craig?
Cool.
Sure. So, guess in keeping with the trend, we watched the first part of the final Harry Potter film,
Oh,
or
right on.
the 7th film, and not the 8th film. And I just want it to be over. I just need closure.
You're so close, dude.
You're
I
almost
just need
there.
I just want closure. Like, I'm not emotionally attached to anyone.
No.
I not really sure I understand the story or
These-
a lot of the symbolism, because I think I've mentioned it before, and I feel like you need, like, a lot of the movie is, it's like watching a Marvel movie where half the service is the source material.
It
So-
definitely has
so
that.
half the film is like, ooh, you remember when this was in the book? And you're like, no. And they're like, everybody else is like, oh yeah, because this happened before it. And I'm like, okay. But
Well, that's the thing, though. See, Kendall, she's been listening to the audiobooks. And when we went to Niagara, to your place a couple weeks ago, she had was the Chamber of Secrets playing. And they axe so much stuff from the books.
Oh,
yeah. Well, those are
Like,
at least those are the
everything
ones
with the ghosts, they're like, nope.
Those are the ones like the first 3 are the ones I remember. But once you get to, like, especially the thick books, because
Yeah, there's
first-
so
the
much they're
first
cutting
3
out. Yeah.
the first 3 you can carry.
Yeah.
The other ones you need a freaking
backpack.
They
Yeah,
had to divide
exactly.
the last one into 2 movies just to
Exactly.
get enough of the like
Like-
fan
Yeah, but
service.
the last one they didn't need to.
They so-
They stretched it for the last one because the second part is only like an hour 45.
But what's insane about the whole thing is the Lord of the Rings trilogy is really long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
film-wise,
4.5
but the
hours in the
books,
last one.
The books aren't that thick. Like, they're not as big as... I have a copy of Return of the King in print form, and the last third of the print book is like all the ridiculous extra stuff that Tolkien wrote.
Yeah, his
That's
wrapping
like,
up stuff.
Here's the no, it's literally like lists of family lineage.
Oh
and
god. Why
all kinds of stuff like that.
I never
and I'm
understood fantasy writers who like to do
Like, it's
that.
cool. Like, good for. Well, I mean, on the bright side for him, he wrote a whole thing between the Silmarillion and the Lord of
That's
the Rings
true,
trilogy and the Hobbit and a couple other things I can't remember. But like he wrote a whole
That's
thing.
true, yeah.
So I'll give him that
He
credit.
made a
But,
whole
like,
universe, yeah.
Exactly. But I don't know. I can't wait for it to be done. I just need closure. There's too much double agent garbage going on that I'm trying to figure out. And there's too much, like, there was a big jump where you feel like you're supposed to understand something from the 6th to the 7th, and I'm not sure what's going on. And I'm just really not a fan of the fact that we've moved from Hogwarts. Like,
Yeah.
why can't the whole thing just be school? I don't know.
Those final books definitely do a better job explaining more of what happens during the summers. Like all the
Yes.
books in general do a lot better job of recapping what like he's been up to. The movies just kind of make you
It's like, hey, how's it going? Here we are.
the movies just give you like I think he says at one point like, oh, I haven't been doing anything, no one's been writing me at all. But
Yeah.
I think that was maybe I can't remember if that's the 7th or the 6th movie. But yeah, it's just they don't cover. I could see definitely that. It's funny that you say that because when I watched the movies, I'd already read those. When I had watched the later movies, I'd already read all those books. So it is funny that I didn't quite make that connection. That like it
No, because
doesn't fit as well
You
when
more
you
or less
have those
understand
throwbacks. Yeah,
the story, but when you're
or what it's
watching
supposed to be. Yeah.
exactly, when you're watching the movie, you're like it almost feels like it's punishing you for not having
Read the book. Yeah.
read the book. So you're like, well, you could understand the story, but instead you have missing pieces. So good
Yeah.
luck.
Particularly
Yeah.
when they start.
Because they axe a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't really ruin the movie so much because it still works. It just leaves you sitting with a lot of questions. And the problem with like, if you watched another movie and you had all those questions, you'd be like, this movie's garbage.
Yeah.
But if you watch Harry Potter and you have all these questions,
They're like,
you
oh,
ask
it's in the
people and they're
books.
like, how do you not know?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of Star Wars has kind of become that way a little bit, like the newer ones in particular, because there's even more like books and comic books out now for Star Wars and the new
there's
stuff than
a
there
lot of
is
canon material.
exactly. And once you
That's
get to
the
that
problem.
point, you get to a weird like trying to keep track of it all.
Yeah, well, then you have to be like, well, this happened in Clone Wars. Well,
Why do I have to watch all of
I'm
Clone
not
Wars?
12.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm like, I agree that movies should be able to stand alone from their other separate things because
from the canon
Like,
material. and
particularly
if
when
you
the-
want the rest of it,
Yeah.
then you go get it.
exactly,
But
yeah.
All that is gonna it should be how the non-canon Star Wars material used to be, where it filled in the gaps
Yeah.
rather than trying to be a part of the story.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely. Like it's a little too like they've tried to plan out every freaking minute, every year of Star
But
Wars, and it's like,
when
well,
it
where's the
come-
mystery of that?
Exactly. But when it comes to Harry Potter, you can't do that because the source material existed. They
Yeah.
just could have done a better job of tying the story together. But that's
Yeah.
not important. Watch more Dragon's Den.
Yeah, nice.
Nothing really to say about that.
Yeah, there's no like we've talked about
That's
that. a bunch
all
of
I have
Tiny
to
goat
say
around.
about that.
What I like to do now is try to predict who's in and who's out
That's good. That's a fun
beforehand.
way to play it. Yeah.
exactly. They walk in, you're like, Jim's done.
Yeah.
Jim's never done because he looks like he's done, but he's not done.
Yeah. Well, because he's. I don't know who the judges are now, but when I used to watch, he was the one with the most extra cash. I think. I
Yes,
think he
he's
was the only one with a B.
Now he's just the crotchety old man.
Yeah.
So we watched some Dragon's Den. We watched the Crystalia special from Comedians of the World, when he talks about Australia.
For like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I still love his bit about the about going on the airplane. His know-it-all buddy's like, man, long flights are so much better than short flights because you sleep the whole way there. And he does, well, that's 2 sleeps. You have to sleep for 7 hours and then wake up and then immediately go back to sleep again for another 7 hours with no break in between. And then he does the whole thing about how he tries to do it. He sleeps for like as slowly as his naps are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I find that funny.
Oh, I was asleep for 3 hours, 7 minutes. It just feels like the Chris Rock joke about working at Red Lobster. Scrape, 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 scrape. That's been at least 2 hours. 15 minutes.
We all know that feeling. So watch that.
No.
It's called work, right?
I definitely didn't
Exactly.
watch 2 full episodes of Grimm this afternoon.
And then the last thing is, I just happened to click on a Between Two Ferns video came up on our suggested videos at work, and I was like, I've never seen this because I hadn't, because I
Oh.
live a sheltered life.
That's funny. I've never actually watched them. I've just seen clips, like little
See,
bits.
The thing is that they're all clips.
Oh, okay. That makes
like
sense
their,
then.
their episodes are like 6 minutes long.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That explains a lot more than I've definitely probably seen more of it than I thought. Yeah.
What explains a lot about it is that most of them are it's Funny or Die, which is Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And it's Zach Galifianakis, but a lot of them are produced, directed, or written by Scott Aukerman. And he's Comedy Bang Bang.
Oh, okay. That's why.
Super
I was like,
weird dude.
his name sounds familiar.
Yes. You rarely see him in front of a camera. He's
Yeah.
usually the guy with the writing credit or something like that. But
Fair
everything he does is super weird. So I watched a few of those, love them, and decided that I needed to watch the Between Two Ferns movie, which is on Netflix.
Recently added.
So yes, so not the same
No,
as because it's actually so Between Two Ferns, for those who are uninitiated, which don't be like me, is basically the concept is it's an interview with a celebrity where Zach Galifianakis plays a character where he's completely obnoxious and basically spends 3 minutes roasting them and asking them uncomfortable questions, and they spend those 3 minutes getting offended. Is the idea. The movie is like the backstory behind the character, because that's what he's doing. So like he's a public access TV interviewer. Nobody knows who he is, but Will Ferrell likes him, so he sends his friends to get interviewed by him to make this web series.
Okay.
And then he wants his own talk show, so they go, like, Will Ferrell's like, I'll give you a talk show, but you have to give me 10 episodes, and I'm not paying for you. Like, I'm not sending them to you. You have to go find your own celebrities. So it's like a road trip movie.
Okay.
And then it ends up where he gets his own show, but he's changed. So, and he's sold out, and then he goes back to doing public access. The movie itself, not that funny.
No,
They had some pretty good. They got some pretty good celebrities to do stuff. The best part of the movie was like the 5 minutes of credits, because they did all the outtakes from the interviews where he's asking the questions, and they're both cracking up. Oh yeah, it's so good.
No, maybe I'll check out the credits then. I do miss when we used to get bloopers during credits. That was my favorite. That's my favorite thing about Rush Hour to this day.
That part of the movie is actually worth watching. The rest of it is a take it or leave it kind of thing. There's some interesting actors that they used in different places. Yeah. For like bit parts in the movie that aren't the celebrities that are being interviewed, but like some of the outtake, like, because the interviews are all super uncomfortable. Like, he does one with David Letterman, he does one with John Hamm, does one with John Legend, not Lennon, but the
like weird if he was
the
talking
outtakes
to Lennon.
Huh?
So it'd be weird if he was talking to Lennon.
Well, that would be very Zach Galifianakis for sure. But like the outtakes with David Letterman or Matthew McConaughey was actually really good too. They were.
I love Matthew McConaughey.
Fantastic.
The man can do no wrong.
It's not really a spoiler, so I'm gonna say it anyway. But Zach opens his interview because like he always pretends like he has no idea who they are. Yeah. When he does the interview, so he's looking at the sheet, and he's like, "All right." And Matthew McConaughey is kind of like, "Yeah," and Zach's like, "Oh, I was just looking at the box office for your last few movies. All right, all right. That one was okay. I hated that movie."
A little Barry joke.
That's good. I like that.
So
a little bit better than my loony joke.
If you do nothing, at least watch the web series, because those are pretty good. Yeah. The one he does with Bradley Cooper is hilarious. They have a fight. Yeah. I think on camera.
I think that's the one that brought it to my attention, actually.
Yes.
So I think it happened during when they were filming one of the Hangovers, I believe.
Yeah, because they were talking about something else. I can't remember. He did one with Obama, Hillary Clinton, where he ran a Trump campaign ad in the middle of the episode.
Yeah, that's the one thing I had to give him credit for. He just has no, I don't want to say shame, but just he's not afraid to go for those things that you might have been like,
Exactly. And I think the thing that they do really well with Between Two Ferns is that you spend a lot of the time going, do they know what they're getting in? Like you know at the bottom of your heart it's got to be scripted.
Yeah, a little bit. But
there's a little bit where you watch it and you're like, this is really like good for you, because he's got people that aren't necessarily actors.
Yeah, well, like Jerry Seinfeld,
Jerry Seinfeld's was great.
Yeah, that's the one that another one that sticks out in my memory.
Jerry Seinfeld and Cardi B.
Yes, that was it.
He has Jerry Seinfeld, and he's roasting him about how he hasn't been funny since '97, and all this stuff. And then he's like talking off camera.
Yeah, they talk about it on Comedians in Cars.
Yeah, and then they're talking to somebody off camera, and he's like, "Oh, we got another guest."
Yeah.
And then he has Cardi B move him out of the way, and they talk about nothing, and it's like the sweetest, nicest interview that he's ever given. And then she leaves, and he goes back to roasting Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. And Cardi B did like a weird thing during it too that made Jerry uncomfortable or something like that, I think. Or no, it was at a different time. Oh no, that was something else.
Remember.
Never mind. That was a different thing. That was some other person came up to him and was like, tried to give him a hug, and he was like, what? No. It was some like celebrity like that, like Cardi B or whatever. And he's like, I don't know you, don't get it back.
Wasn't it Kesha?
Maybe that's what it was. I can't remember exactly. So many things.
That's my list. That's my list, though, Scott. You tell me what you.
Right on. So my list is fairly short. There's been a lot of YouTube this week, to be completely frank. I watched the new Hot Ones with Ashton Kutcher. And
tried.
You tried?
I tried.
Didn't like it?
Work wasn't having it, so we didn't finish it.
Fair enough. It was a little bit. That one felt a little slow to start, but it had a few interesting things. He's an okay interviewer. You could tell he's not really into hot wings. The Shia one felt weird.
I don't think I can watch it.
Probably, I didn't get much out of it other than like, I don't know, like to this, it does still feel like it kind of almost reconfirmed some of my thoughts already that I had about him, which seems like just a fake guy. You know what I mean? Like all his opinions to me just seem like he decided on them because he thinks that those are what that somebody edgy would come up with, if that makes sense. He feels like maybe it is his genuine personality, but to me, he just has always come off as fake. And this interview didn't help with that. That's all I should say. There was a couple points, I guess, almost snuck through, but not quite enough. There was a few times.
So was it worse than watching Jeff Goldblum? Because that was rough.
I haven't actually watched the Jeff Goldblum one.
You haven't watched the Jeff Goldblum one?
That one
yet?
I'm concerned about because
weird.
for exactly what you're saying, which is that like he's too on character, if that makes sense.
He 100% like he looks like he showed up to play a character. So that's either Jeff Goldblum, and in everything that he's serious, he's acting, or he's a little bit more serious and he's acting when he's on that show.
Yeah, and that's the part I couldn't quite tell with Shia too, was just like, and he did this weird thing where like he like opened each of the bottles and made sure they like sauced each of them like as they went, if that makes sense. Like as opposed to just, I guess, trusting that he had sauced each of them individually.
I feel like we started the episode then, because I've seen that. Like, that's ringing a bell.
Yeah. Well, I think one other person has done something like that, at least like cracked them open. But he was the first. Yeah, it was weird, and just like, I don't know. Like, it was kind of interesting to kind of get his perspective on a few things. But it was also just like, this kid doesn't even realize that, like, because he's been famous since he was a child. Like, he was even Steven, right? So he doesn't quite understand that he's not a normal person. Like, he thinks he is, and he thinks that his opinions are normal people, like, that they're not based off of any kind of privileged life that he's lived. And I'm not saying he didn't work for it, but it's still like, you don't understand that how being famous at 4 makes you a different person than the rest of us. Like, that's just...
It almost sounds like you're talking about, like, Gary Vaynerchuk. Just a guy who, like, he came from, like, he may have started with...
It's a lot of celebrity. Like, once... Like, when you become a child actor in general, that's a very common thing. Like, especially if you actually manage to bring it over into celebrity, is that kind of weird kind of, like, you don't like, Justin Bieber's another example of it. Like, he became famous before he could drive, and now he's had problems with it because, like, you become famous before you can even, like, make real rational decisions in life
constantly.
Yeah, and it's like, you get treated differently than the average person does because you're recognized by the average person. So it is this weird thing where it's like he's not self-aware enough that he is a celebrity, like that being a celebrity makes him different than the rest of us in that, like, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. That's just how I felt, at least. I could be off on the guy, but I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like what he would be like.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not exactly his fault. I just, I'm just kind of like feel more self-aware because there are actors who are self-aware about that, who have been were child actors. Like Mila Kunis, she was acting when she was 5 as well. And she's turned out mostly fine. She still does Family Guy. So you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, it's true. Yeah,
you can come out that at the other end and still be like aware of what it's like, because even if like in that 70s show she was like 16 at the time, so she's had that early celebrity, but she managed to keep her head on, that's all. But yeah, so I watched Hot Ones with those two. I also started this other new YouTube series on the channel Bon Appetit, which is called Gourmet Makes. So they just make gourmet versions of different candies, and like the last episode I watched was them making gourmet Oreos, and this one I just find interesting to kind of see, like, pretty much breakdown of all these junk garbage foods that I eat so fucking often, and just seeing how you would make healthier versions of it and kind of getting more of an idea of what's actually going into the garbage candy versions that we're getting. So that was a pretty interesting YouTube series I've started recently. And then the other stuff that I've actually watched that wasn't YouTube was I watched some more Legends, which I forgot to mention last week. Because Craig doesn't care about Legends so much, but but an interesting thing was actually they had a guest star on this season, which was Biff from the Back to the Future series. So the actor who played Biff in the Back to the Future series, he had a guest role in this season. They had one little like fun nod, because it is fun because this whole show is about time travel, and the series that made him a celebrity is a time travel thing too.
Time travel, yeah.
That's a fun little connection, and they have him sing at one point, which is kind of interesting because he's a really good singer. But yeah, no, that's just a fun little tie that I forgot to mention last week about this season. I've been watching the latest season of Arrow, leading up to the final season of Arrow that's going to be premiering before this episode comes out, or a couple days after this episode comes out. So yeah, just watching that. I'm not sure how caught up you are on Arrow, Andrew.
Not at all. I didn't watch any of the last season.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just getting caught up on that season. Got added to Crave, so I'm just catching up on it. I don't know. I'm still up in the air as to if I'm going to seek out and like buy them on iTunes or Google Play to watch the new seasons, or if I'm just gonna wait another year for them all to get added. It's tough with this crossover that's coming up this year, but we shall see. Yeah, so that's the superhero stuff I watched this week. And the last thing that I actually remembered to write down was I've started a new season of MasterChef. That was also added to Crave TV. Again, me and my cooking shows. Don't really need to explain it anymore, I don't think. For those listeners who don't know, go back and find one of the episodes where I talk about it.
So all the episodes.
Yeah, at least the last year's worth. It's at least every other week that I talk about a different cooking show of some sort. But yep, that's pretty much all I watched this week that I at least remember to write down.
Cool. Fair enough.
Yes. So,
well,
that brings us to the end of the second season finale, end of 2 years into podcasting. Well, next next episode we'll be wrapping it up with kind of just a random chat, right, guys? Like a little bit of
plan,
just kind of getting our feelings out about how we felt about the podcast, kind of wrapping up things, and then seeing where it goes, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, be sure to join us next week for that final episode before we go on a indefinite or indeterminate hiatus. And be sure to, let us know in the comments below if you don't want, or not comments below, because this is a YouTube video. Be sure to let us know either, via email or on one of our social medias if you would like to see more of our stuff. Like I said, we'll still be doing the YouTube, so be sure to go subscribe to that if you haven't already. Did I forget anything, guys?
Until then.
Yeah, no.
No, until then, just thank you for being a friend. That's the Golden Girls theme song.
Nice. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.